In the UK, most crash sites date back to 1940, when over 600 Spitfires and Hurricanes were shot down in the Battle of Britain. Since the 1960s, a few small groups of die-hard enthusiasts have been digging them back up. And today this lot are looking for one of the very last planes still in the ground. At a secret location in Kent, a local farmer has given permission for an excavation. Dig organiser Gareth Jones, an archaeologist from South Wales, is hoping to find a 1940s Hurricane.
Battle of Britain digs, they don't happen that often these days, if I'm honest. Most of them are being dug up, and this is one of literally only a handful that's in accessible conditions in a farmer's field. So we're very lucky to obtain their permission.
He's joined by veteran digger Steve VIZARD, who has unearthed over 100 Spitfires and Hurricanes in the last 40 years.
This is actually a site that I came to, must be very early 80s, so it's good that today's generation of researchers and fixers, is going round still investigating the ones that were never thoroughly examined all those years ago.
Historian Robin Hill has a strong hunch exactly whose plane crashed here.
I was looking into crashes, and one of them was this aircraft, and I wrote to the pilot, who was still around at that time, and he sent me a reply, which surprised me because it was very generous of him, detailing exactly what had happened to him.
That pilot was Desmond Fopp. On the 10th of September 1940, Fopp was cornered by 3 Messerschmitt 110s, hit from below and bailed out at 17,000 feet.
He landed in a tree with his toes just touching the ground, and his uniform was still smouldering. And a farm worker came up to him who thought he was a German at first and gave him a couple of prods with a pitchfork before Fopp managed to convince him with a set of fruity language that he was actually British. He was then taken to hospital, where he began weeks of intensive care and rehabilitation before rejoining his squadron later in the war.
Before they dig, a powerful metal detector is used to map out the site.
This will actually pinpoint the epicentre of the crash. This will pick up metallic objects only, such as the engine, undercarriage legs, all the steel parts. From the signals, there's obviously a substantial piece of steel there.
You might expect archaeologists to arrive with trowels and brushes. But for these guys, this is the tool of choice. They've been given just one day to access the site, and they want to retrieve as much as possible. Top prizes would be parts of the cockpit, the engine, and the registration plate that could prove that this was indeed Fopp's Hurricane. As the digger makes light work of the topsoil, Steve's daughter Vicky is on the lookout for telltale signs that they'll need a more gentle approach.
And we are just keeping an eye out for what we call crystals, which is corroded bits of aluminium. There'll be bright blue-white crystals, and that will tell us where the main part of the airplane is.
Just a few feet down, parts begin to emerge.
Just a typical piece of Hurricane structure with all the struts going into a joint there, and then there's a stainless steel bracing strut down there, which is sort of typical of the Hurricane construction, very different to a Spitfire.
They're not looking for metal skin, because unlike the Spitfire, the Hurricane was mainly fabric covered, based on the earlier biplanes it evolved from.
This is the rudder bar and rudder pedals that the pilot would have had his feet on. So at the bottom of the pilot's control column. So we're in the cockpit.
The deeper it gets, the more excited they become.